Good evening. After a long inaugural session and very sumptuous lunch, because I had only very light lunch, but it was very heavy. So I know that all of you will be feeling asleep. I was trying to show you some videos so that you all will get awakened up. But anyway, I think let it come. So when we are doing the fits, feints and funny turns, that was the title of the presentation. So I just want to know, because we have seniors here also, whenever there is a seizure or a complaint of seizure is there, what are the type of abnormalities that we will encounter? You can see there. What is it? Any idea? What is it? Arangilum? Okay. So that means seizures usually get confused with the non-seizure events. Usually we think that incontinence, if it is there, it is a seizure. But now we know that even in non-seizure events, incontinence can occur. And then the post-ictal confusion usually is considered to be rare in a non-seizure event, but it also will be there. And now we can see what it is. It was just a mannequin put in a textile shop like this only. It was only a half of a man's torso. Okay, so you can see there. And usually whenever we get this complaint, the child is convulsing, what are the usual conditions we think? It can be epileptic or a non-epileptic events, isn't it? Epileptic, we know that it can be generalized tonic-clonic seizure or a other type of seizures. And non-epileptic can have almost a similar one. When there is generalized tonic-clonic seizures, there can be a simple feints or vasovagal attacks. Then see true seizures secondary to that is what is called as anoxic seizure. But again, it is non-epileptic, not epileptic. Then breath-holding spells, cardiac syncope, psychogenic. These are some of the epileptic events when a convulsion is the manifestation. Or when a child is having just a staring spell, there again there can be a non-epileptic events. Similarly, a complex partial seizure, so each episode can have its own manifestation. So this child, 11-year-old Ramesh, was brought with a history of falling down in class. Father is quite anxious because his father is on Eptoin since last few years. Is it epileptic or non-epileptic? 11-year-old Ramesh was brought with the history of falling down in class. Okay, I think we'll require a few more history, isn't it? For that, we'll ask Ramesh itself, so that would be the best thing. And he said that we had a maths test in the first period. I had not slept well the previous night and had missed my breakfast. I started feeling uneasy, a bit of warm, and started sweating. Everything blurred. Then I can remember sometime later I found myself on floor with some headache. Can you guess it is epileptic or non-epileptic? Anybody? Yes, I am happy that a chorus of non-epileptic event. And what is it? It is syncope, isn't it? Vasovagal syncope. Okay, but we are not stopping here. Just ideally we must have an eyewitness account. Here a classmate. And classmate was phoned up because father, and he said, Ramesh and I were sitting together and reading for the masters. Suddenly I felt Ramesh was looking pale, sweating. Then his eyes rolled back. Before I could hold him, he fell down on floor and was jerking for around 15 seconds. He wet himself. He was unconscious for 2 to 3 minutes and then became conscious. So now what do you say? Epileptic or non-epileptic? Some have changed their idea, it is epileptic, isn't it? But again, that is the question, because, so we'll ask her mother, what is the other things that she wants to say. Ramesh had never such episodes in past. When I reached school, he was sitting in class normally, but appeared a bit pale. I took him to home asking the details of the event. I felt he was almost normal and he was willing to rush to playground in the evening. He was weak in English and maths, was taking extra tuitions. His father has epilepsy and is under treatment. So now what do you say? Confirm the diagnosis of epilepsy or non-epileptic event? The sister is muttering that it is epileptic. Any others? Anybody? Jagamar? Epileptic or non-epileptic? Yes, very good, because it is non-epileptic. Because these things, usually a history of father or one family member having an epilepsy doesn't mean that the children should have the seizure. It is the event that does, and here all these things that he was anxious, he didn't have a good sleep, he didn't have a good breakfast, all these things indicates. But the occurrence of that clonic jerks, that is not at all a feature to exclude epilepsy. It is to diagnose epilepsy, but even in syncope, it can happen. So what will be your plan of investigations? What investigation, I will ask the senior pediatrician, Dr. Shaji, what will you advise?
Basically, you have to find out as the history goes detail, then check the sugar, check the cardiac event.
Very good, very good.
And then electrolytes, calcium,
Yes, yes, that is it. Because rather than asking for an EEG, EEG will you do or will not? You will not do. You will ask your neurologist colleague to do an EEG, or will you ask him not to do an EEG? That's it. In such cases, better not to do an EEG. If you do an EEG, or if you refer the patient to a neurologist, he will definitely end up in an anticonvulsant. So, as far as possible, take the history correctly, take the history properly, and make it, because epilepsy is not a diagnosis by EEG. It used to be diagnosed only by history. Okay. So here investigation is ECG, not EEG. And you have to analyze ECG for various things. And one important thing is to look for the QT interval, prolonged QT interval, and you calculate it. And if there is abnormality, you may have to look for other manifestations. And if the QT interval is more than 0.49 seconds, definitely it is an abnormal thing, and you have to make a diagnosis of long QT syndrome. Okay, so that means epilepsy, syncope can lead to seizures even because of the anoxia. So that we call it as a anoxic syncope. Here, because the video is not working, this was a Valsalva maneuver patient is doing, and she just falls down and throws a fit, because Valsalva maneuver can induce syncope, and this video is demonstrating that. But anyway, I am just leaving that, so that we'll go to another history. Pediatrician's referral letter, a nice description of a seizure, appalling, stiffening, tonic-clonic movement, 2 times occurred, 6 months interval, and child is on carbamazepine. So, seen by the neurologist said EEG is abnormal, so he increased the dose of carbamazepine. I do not doubt that she has an epileptic tendency, and I am sure that she must be on AED for at least 2 years free from attack. That was the reply given to the pediatrician by the neurologist. What is your opinion? Appalling, stiffening, tonic-clonic movements 2 times, but there is a recurrence this time also. That is why they have come. What will you do? Again, we must retake the history. Whenever a patient comes with another attack, ask them to describe it. Because most of the time, we will, വീണ്ടും ഉണ്ടായോ? അവർ പറയാം ഉണ്ടായി, എന്തുണ്ടായി, പണ്ടത്തെ പോലെ ഉണ്ടായി. We will never ask them to repeat again. And so the medicine will be escalated. So that is not the correct thing. So this time you ask the child is selling, feeling of something coming up from tummy, blurring, giddy, slammed down. Try to keep her up, stiffening, shivering up. So when the child is falling down because of giddiness or syncope, they must be allowed to sleep or lie down. If the child is again made to sit up, that is where they go into another episode of syncope, and it can lead to, again, as I have told you, the seizures can occur. But more than that, what has happened before the seizure? Here, most of the time, child may not say that he was or she was cutting a pencil using a blade because of the fear of scolding. And here, the child was cutting a pencil with a blade and injured the fingers. That means we all know that this event is the point. So you take the history. So that means, and previous attack, when asked, his child was hit by the head by a falling. So that means that was a pain-induced syncope. And the EEG which was seen by the neurologist was not an abnormality, but it is only a normal manifestation that is called as a posterior sharp wave of youth. So that means you know that the EEG of children, because of the thin scalp, will be of high amplitude, and there are lot of normal variations in the child. That is what is called as posterior sharp wave of the youth. And many times the reflex anoxic seizures can occur when there is a vaguely mediated cardio-inhibitory type of syncope. And so the setting and the warning is more important. Just sound is there? No. Okay. Sound? No problem. Anyway, so I think, what do you think it is? Yes, I think you should have that sound should have been heard. This we have included in one of our workshops where, so you can see that, yes, look at the face because the color is not coming, that it has become so bluish, crying, followed this has happened. So this is a type of a breath holding spell. So again that cry, followed by, there again you know that in breath holding spell also there can be tonic spasms or even tonic-clonic convulsions. So by giving anticonvulsants you cannot control these type of seizures. So by giving anticonvulsants you are not supporting them. And the only question that you can ask, does in this breath holding spell, if the mothers are insisting on repeated treatment, does anyone know an adult who has breath holding spells? Because after some day it disappears. So ask this question, or you ask them, any child, have you read any newspaper saying that the child has died after crying? Maybe aspirations can occur, but this sort of histories may not be there. And in Nelson says that oral atropine sulfate, 0.01 milligram per kg per 24 hours, can be used for treatment. Okay, there can be various compulsive valsalva maneuvers, or see the phenomena like this can produce again neurocardiogenic syncope. And in this case, what child was doing is he will suffocate himself. He was trying to demonstrate it, but during my video recording, it did not happen. This is what he just presses against his neck and he falls down, and because they get an ecstasy out of this. That is it. So that means this sort of imposed suffocation can occur by somebody or by the child, just like a Munchausen syndrome by proxy or a Munchausen syndrome. So there can be other manifestations, psychological disorders, sleep-related disorders, paroxysmal movement disorders. We all know that various psychological disorders can occur, or some sort of infantile dystonic spasms also can occur, like this. I think all of you must be, by this time, must be aware of this video. And as pediatricians, we all make a diagnosis very fast, isn't it? What is this? By the posture, the method by which the child is doing, the girl child kept on the table. Yes, I think all of you know, it is gratification or a masturbatory phenomena. But nowadays, the neurologists want to rechristen it. So they tell it as a benign idiopathic infantile dyskinesia. And, but it is anyway, it is a non-epileptic event. And even in boys also it can happen. They will just lie down and rub their genitals like that, and will go into a type of spasm, sweating, etc. And it is said that pyracetam, usually distraction is the best method, but pyracetam may be useful in the management. And this may be very common in children with mental retardation or other type of manifestations. Again, it is actually this was a mentally retarded child. Their system is not supporting the videos in a proper manner, that is why. Okay, anyway, this one, see the number of people who are thronging around, and the method by which this is happening. So once you see it, you know that what is it, because of, and just see what he is doing there. Okay, so it is, what is it? Is it an epileptic or a non-epileptic event? I will show you one more. Just watch him. Sound. It is connected, isn't it? Why the sound is not coming? And see the he is, because forcibly, see what he is doing, and he has stopped that convulsive movement while manage, and now you know that this again is a pseudo-seizure, isn't it? So seeing as well as take and see the movement by which that is happening, closed eyes, all these are against the true seizure. And panic attacks in adolescence, it is a very common phenomena, sudden fear, short breath, palpitation, dyspnea, sweating, etc. This can be a similarly episodic discontrol syndrome, especially children with ADHD. Suddenly they get angry, shows temper tantrum, and then they stop doing it. And a diagnosis of complex partial seizure may be made. And because of the TV effect, many type of manifestations also can occur. And sleep-related movement disorders, I'm not going into that, all of you are aware. Similarly, paroxysmal movement disorders, again, I don't know whether this video will work. Okay, again, paroxysmal dyskinesias can be confused with epilepsy. And again, say this child is having a dystonic posturing, sudden coming while walking. That is paroxysmal dystonic choreoathetosis. You can call it as a kinesogenic choreoathetosis, because especially when they walk, or it can occur during sleep also. And similarly, shuddering attacks. Let us see whether that is working. Just match that. Yes. This is a shuddering attack. And if you ask them also, many times they may show also. That's it. So this is a shuddering spell. Very easy to make a diagnosis if you see it or take the history properly. And similarly, migraines patients, even in children, lot of manifestations can present as an epilepsy. For example, a basilar migraine children can have most of the time, especially adolescents, can develop unconsciousness. And this may be preceded by the prodrome with a scintillating tachopsia, or a tonic-clonic movement also may occur, especially when there is a syncope at the end. So again, history is very important. And classic migraine with aura, where the numbness, it may be considered as a aura or a aura symptom of the seizure because of the paresthesia. And then it comes another manifestation, that is the second manifestation of again the limbs may have a paresthesia. And then the third manifestation is a benign paroxysmal vertigo of childhood, playing, running to the mother, hugging. Mother may notice to and fro movement, and he may omit and sleep. So in a 1.5-year-old child, if this happens, this you make a diagnosis of benign paroxysmal vertigo of childhood. Similarly, benign torticollis of infancy. A child suddenly develops twisting of the head, keeps omitting, paroxysm. So this may happen, see, pallor, agitation, vomiting, etc. So that can happen. All these you treat as a migrainous variant, and they will respond. And another important condition to be differentiated in children is this one. Just see. Again, I think next one maybe this one I kept here. This is another one I have recorded during one of the presentations in Canada. Almost similar to the previous one. Just watch. Yes. So this sort of a head tilt for some time. So this is what is called as a Sandifer syndrome. Sandifer syndrome. See there. Paroxysmal. Similarly, paroxysmal tonic upgaze also is another manifestation. And before concluding, we must say that funny turns can occur because of certain other manifestations also. This child who presented with, see, whenever the child is being carried by the mother, suddenly child goes into a state of tonic spasm. So a tonic seizure was made, and again we can see that especially when the child is lifted like that, and sudden tonic spasm occurring very frequently with crying, and an uprolling also was described. And so we made a different diagnosis. We thought that it is again a tonic seizure or a reflex seizures like that. But again, later, the parents themselves came with a history telling that they were feeling that there is something abnormal there, here like that. There is, so we thought that because there is something, a small diffuse swelling like that there, so an MRI was taken at that site, and it was a lymphangioma like that. So, and because whenever the child was carried, because of the pain, child was suddenly moving the legs like that. So that means this sort of manifestation can occur due to various manifestations, and you can see this one. And especially we have seen certain movement disorders being diagnosed as epileptic, because earlier in our, because in Hindi movies, most of the songs itself were having some jerky movements, isn't it? And epileptic like that. And one of the recent version may be this one, isn't it, where we are all aware of this. Again, the sound should have been there, then only that charm of the music will come, isn't it? But this computer is not playing at all. Okay, so this eye blinking was become a national passion, isn't it? So this sort of eye blinking, okay, also can be common in children also. Just watch what is happening here. And this child, I must say that child was on anticonvulsant. Okay. Almost similar eye blinking, isn't it? Okay. Yes, that's it. Okay, so what is it? This is tics or a hemifacial spasm. That is unilateral. Then you can have even a almost similar child with a bilateral tic. So these are all tics, and this will be treated as, should be treated as tics by giving drugs. You can see that another child with a multiple type of movements. So these were again will be described as jerks only by the mother, and the neurologists usually will be treating them as seizures. See, that's it, multiple movements. Okay, and bus drug is pimoside or risperidone also can be used. And look for any vocal tics, because again what you have to look for vocal tics is they may not have the usual vocal sounds. Just like this one can be considered as a vocal tics, or just throat clearing also. And finally, I will summarize by saying that many children suspected of having epilepsy, and even those with a definite diagnosis of epilepsy, have never had an epileptic seizure, because in our series of an intractable seizures, 30% were non-epileptic. So you have to take the history, even in a comprehensive epileptic center. And syncope and reflex anoxic seizures are one of the common causes. And in children, breath holding spells also to be thought of whenever a child presents with seizure-like manifestation. And psychological disorders like masturbatory behavior or pseudo-seizures also can be common in both girls and boys, as well as sleep-related disorders like night terrors, narcolepsy, cataplexy syndrome, or are some of the other manifestations. Similarly, paroxysmal dystonic choreoathetosis, hereditary chin trembling, shuddering attacks, migraine and migraine-related disorders, and neurologic disorders, especially Arnold-Chiari malformation with a sudden drop attacks or a cough syncope. Arnold-Chiari malformation, 12-year-old child suddenly coughs and fall down. You take an MRI, they may have a Arnold-Chiari malformation. So that means careful analysis of the events leading to the spell and not the investigations. But EEG may have a limited usefulness in prognosticating rather than diagnosing. So history is the most important point. Take the history from different sources, from the child, from the mother, from the onlookers. So that means I again want to say that syncope is a common symptom, and don't treat syncope with anticonvulsants. So before concluding, I must say that all of you, again, the sound should have been there. Then only, because you are spoiling the presentations. Whenever the party is enrolled, you must be having all the facilities. When presentation is done, it must be in a nice manner. Sound is the main effect here. All of you might have seen this, isn't it? And what has happened? Because throwing fit, but by a simple mobile. That is the advantage of having the mobile. Nowadays, what disadvantage of? I think I take this opportunity to thank again all of you, because that is the retesting. Once happened, again you give a retest, whether it is again take back, given, this over. Okay. So thank you very much for the excellent participation once again on behalf of this. I think I forgot not forgot, because one of the slides by loading got deleted, because I wanted to appreciate Dr. Jissi, because she was the person who was the instrument. Jissi is here? Jissi? Ah, yes, because that was the first slide, because she was the person who initialized got the idea of Madavilla, the short film, and that only started all the program of that means that which started and ending also when we had the last program on 22nd, and there also she was instrumental in arranging everything. So I think she needs a big applause. Thank you very much. I think I haven't